I'm gonna get your money for you. But if you don't get the President of the United States on that phone, you know what's gonna happen to you?
What?
You're gonna have to answer to the Coca-Cola Company.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mediocre Movie Majors official podcast.
Welcome! How y'all doing? How are you today?
Good. We got a lot of movies to talk about.
I know. This is going to be our movie speed run. We're going to talk about a month's worth of movies, which is a lot of movies for us because we watch movies pretty much every day.
Yeah, we watch 30 movies a month.
Pretty much, not going to lie.
So
So we're going to be speed running through all the movies we watched, giving you guys a little brief talking about them.
Starting with the newest Martin Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon. This is a fantastic film, just came out about the 1920s. The Osage people, they found a bunch of oil and became super wealthy, and that encouraged a lot of white men to come marry them for their wealth and then kill them out of the will. And a lot of these murders sort of went uninvestigated for a really long time, and it's a really interesting film that's like a true story.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
basically about the horrors of white men, which is love to see it, and also so sad. But this movie is amazingly acted, and Leonardo DiCaprio is there.
How many bags? I gave it 5 because it was really good. Story of assimilation.
Yeah. Wait, what did you give it? 5?
Yeah.
I also gave it 5 bags. I feel like this is definitely one that is best to just experience, as with most Martin Scorsese movies, just go in, have that experience, you know.
It is paced kind of long. It does feel pretty long, but it's not
what is
that.
It? Two
It's
and a
like
half
2
hours? Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
We went to the movie theater when we saw this. We were going to an 8:30 showing, and when we left, it was past midnight. So take your time with it, but maybe you plan to plan a whole day around it, you know? Wake up early, put it on, start it at 7 p.m., do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Watch this film, because,
It's pretty good.
girl, you gotta see it.
The only thing was, it was a bit weird having Martin direct this. It felt like, director-wise, it was why him tell this story? But,
Yeah, I think
I
there's
appreciate
a
him
criticism
branching
to be
out.
had there, but there's also
I think he did a good
an
job.
appreciation of him being the big director that he is, bringing the story
Yeah.
too late.
So, yeah.
Take it either way.
Yeah. Next up, we got Doom. This is a movie.
Y'all know the video game Doom?
It's a great game.
They made it into a movie.
This is just like my favorite video game, Doom 3.
I love that you just made yourself laugh with your review.
Well, because, okay, listen. Doom 3 is so terrible, and it's the game that inspired this movie. Because, the original Doom games sure inspired this, but at the time, the most recent Doom game was Doom 3. And boy, is it terrible.
Yeah.
And
You heard it from him, the resident Doom lover of the house.
I'm the resident gamer of the house, sorry.
The fun thing about this is that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the Doom guy.
And also at one point, because the game, it was one of the first ever first-person shooters, the camera goes POV, and you see the little gun, and it's terrible. And
They don't even call it the BFG, they call it something different.
They do call the BFG something different. It's terrible.
Anyways, I gave that 1 bag. It really was not anything special. And
I gave it 3 bags. It was fine.
I would
it's
never
bad enough that it's
purposely rewatch
fine.
that one. Okay.
I've seen other Doom movies, and it honestly wasn't the worst.
All right. I
But
didn't know there was
this next
other.
movie is the
Oh,
worst.
I didn't even review that.
Oh,
That's so funny.
The Kissing Booth 2. I gave it half a bag, but I'd give it no stars if I could.
For those of you guys out there who are big fans of the Kissing Booth franchise, maybe get your ass out of 2016. This came out in 2020.
Yeah.
This movie did not need to be made. And listen,
It was
I am
terrible.
not a Joey King hater. If you want to come on this page and hate on Joey King, blocked, immediate block. However, these movies are just annoying, and they promote abuse, and they're just weird, and every one of the characters is annoying. To be honest, I forget the plot.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the plot?
No, I remember hating it immediately and just wanting to turn it off. And
But we watched it. We were going through this phase where like we were pretty tired, and we were like, we just want to put on a movie that we don't need to pay attention to, and we just happened upon The Kissing Booth too.
yeah. Next up is Jackass the Movie. There were some gags that I really liked, like the guy who would just go by and shave off people's head on the production. It's just people hurting themselves.
Yeah, it was created like by children, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
And
Look at how many Jackass movies there
so
are.
many.
Oh my god.
It's one of those movies that's like maybe fun in concept, but then like almost always it feels like they're taking it too far to the point of like, I don't want to watch you really hurt yourself that bad. You know what I mean? I love a good like little prank or like little silly thing that guys do, but like some of them I genuinely don't understand how they are still alive or
They're still making them.
have
Most recent one came out
bones in their
2022.
body. 2022?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Jackass Forever.
yeah. Definitely like I could see a teenage boy absolutely loving this movie.
Yeah.
As for me, I just give it 2.5 bags.
It's
It was
really
a bit too violent for me.
it's so like of its time.
Yeah,
2002.
yeah, you're
MTV like don't do this at home, secretly hoping you'd do it and upload it to YouTube.
So MTV core.
And it's like okay, but it's very forgettable honestly, like in terms of the grandiose concept of the human race. What really is the point of hurting yourself for laughter?
Yeah.
Like,
Save your bones, please.
yeah.
Okay.
2.5 bags. Next
Ooh.
up, we got a classic. Catherine's never seen it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's not true for the record.
I will say,
before.
I'm just going to say this right now. This movie is way too overhyped.
Whoa, coming in with a hot take.
Hot. Now, don't get me wrong. I gave it a 4.5. I loved it. It's great. But the problem I have is that it's very much. It was a fun event. It was good. Does it need to be the start of a trilogy? No. And we'll get into that. But let's just talk about this for now. This was a great movie. Up until now, Sony Pictures Animation kind of sucked on ice. I guess they did the Lego movie, but like other than that, they did like the Emoji movie. They did like some really bad stuff. So this was the thing that kind of swung them back into public favor. And that's again because the animators were given so much time and like they liked the staff and they all kind of liked the source material. It felt like, and there's a lot of little hidden jokes within the frame.
There's a lot
animation.
of love in this film. Like, there's a genuine love, I feel like, for the characters and for the universe that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
An animated Spider-Man movie is not something that I thought that I would enjoy as much as I ended up loving when we saw this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a good little story. Then we watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel.
The newer one.
And everyone's also ranting and raving about this one. It has even a higher rating than the first one.
Because it's better? Question mark?
My thing is, I noticed this immediately in the film, is it felt like all the background characters were just like Blender animated. There was a lot less love in every frame. There were some good frames, don't get me wrong, and like some of the animation really shines, but it was a lot more selective. It wasn't every single detail crammed with love. They definitely took some cheaper, shorter, quicker shortcuts. And the reason why is because the production of this was actually much faster than the original Spider-Verse. So they had less time to work on this. And they also...
And there's a lot more, like...
There's a lot more to
plot-wise and, like, universe-wise, there's, like, just a lot more going on.
A lot going on, yeah, but also more... They were really pushing the animation team, and then they ended up firing a lot of the department, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was, like... It definitely wasn't the nicest project I've heard behind the scenes.
Dang.
But...
They did make
They did make
film.
a fine film. Granted, it's a one of two story, so that's a bit annoying.
It was definitely
it doesn't
kind
need
of
to be a part one
disappointing
or
for
part
this
two.
movie to
Have a
just
cliffhanger.
end on a cliffhanger, and you kind of realize that the whole thing is building up to another movie. I mean, I'm definitely excited to check out the next movie whenever it comes out.
But it doesn't feel like there's enough left of the story to even warrant a whole additional movie.
Yeah, because this really felt like there was a lot going on, and I really wanted it to be a wrapped up story.
And it felt like they wrapped up a lot of it, or were about to wrap up the story, and then they said to be continued, and it was just like, wow, that's lazy. And again, I wonder how much of that was a repercussion from the crunch deadline and overworked sessions.
That's a good point.
And so again, all that considered, it felt wrong to give this any more than 3 bags. I know there's good moments, and I know the writing's like fine, and I love the Spot as villain, even though he only appears in like 2 fight scenes.
I love a lot of the new characters that they bring into this movie. I feel like that brings a lot of heart and
Definitely. But it also feels like they at the same time, they missed the mark. It feels like in so many ways with like how much they're trying to do versus how much they actually accomplish.
I agree. I think the pacing could have been reworked.
Yeah. Like there's a lot. Yeah, I agree.
So I gave it 4.5 bags because I liked it more than I liked the first one, and it definitely did make me excited for the second one.
Yeah, I just felt such
guess.
disappointment, and I've noticed those little shortcuts and budget restraints, and I was just disappointed. So I give it 3, but it was still fine. But and I'll still watch the sequel.
Yeah, that's gonna be the real tea. What we think of the third one.
So next up is a movie called Sex Tape.
This is a movie about Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel making a sex tape on their iPad. And I bring that up because this movie is
weirdly against Apple,
pro
but
iPad,
also pro like
but
it's paid
anti.
by.
It's pro iPad in the way that like it's iPad product placement, but it's anti like there's this boomer thing where they're very much anti the cloud.
No one understands the cloud.
And they don't get and it's like the cloud is like this mysterious thing that nobody understands, and like all like if you film a video on your iPad, it's just it's going everywhere because that's just how the cloud works.
Erase all pictures of Ron!
Erase all pictures of Ron! Erase all pictures of Ron!
Yeah.
That's boomer comedy for you guys.
It's like
that's
just,
boomer comedy.
It's one of those movies where they accidentally they film themselves having sex to like for like role play purposes, you know, to add a little spice in there to heat things up a touch, you know. But then like when he went to delete it, he accidentally, I guess, sends it to everyone or uploads it to the cloud, and the cloud sends it to everyone. I don't know, but basically they have to go on this kooky, crazy adventure.
They have to find all of the iPads that all of their friends and family members have that are connected to their cloud and delete the sex tape.
Yep.
And hilarity ensues. It's funny. It's it's.
And I will just say this: Jack Black's character is probably the funniest part of this movie, because like he plays the YouPorn CEO, and eventually they're in the porn, the servers trying to take it off the internet, and they're like smashing things with an axe, and he's like, you could have just like talked to me, right? Like Jack Black, I love him. He was a funny little Easter egg.
Yeah, Jack Black was probably the funniest part of this movie. I'm not saying this movie wasn't funny, but it was definitely funny in a boomer kind of way.
Yeah.
In a way that like I don't know. It just
and
wasn't.
Also
we weren't the target audience.
The dog fight scene might be controversial for dog lovers. Didn't bother me, but if you're someone who is like really sympathetic towards dogs, you might just like that.
Anyways, I gave it 2.5 bags.
I gave it 3
Pretty
bags.
forgettable.
Very forgettable. I kind of got it confused with that other one. Jack and Jill make a sex tape or whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah.
We reviewed it in a previous episode. Next up is Bohemian Rhapsody. We've both seen this movie before, but
I went through. I don't even know how to begin to describe it. But I went through a phase in my life about 4 or 5 years ago where I was obsessed with this movie, like maybe to an unhealthy level. But I used to watch this movie on a daily basis. 2019, this thing had me in a chokehold. And then one day I woke up and I was like, okay, I gotta chill. And then it's been quite a few years since I saw this movie. And every time I try to revisit it, I am sadly reminded that this is just like not that good.
It's like a fine biopic of his life, but it's the biggest problem with it is the editing. And what bothered me the first time I watched it was mostly the crowd at the big finale, the big climax. It just looked like a
Live
video
Aid.
game. And apparently that's because they were trying to like use actual footage from Live Aid or whatever they did to make the CGI'd crowd. It looks terrible.
But if you watch this movie and you see like anytime they're having a conversation and how much it cuts to each of them for reaction shots or just general cutting between them very quickly, you start to be like, okay,
Yeah.
there's a reason that they did it. Not a good reason.
Definitely not a good reason.
I don't even really understand, actually. I was gonna say I understand why they, didn't want any one band member to have, like,
But it's a movie.
less screen time.
Literally,
but
it's a movie about Mr. Bohemian Rhapsody himself.
Fredward Mercury.
But like,
Yeah, I think Rami
or
Malek's
I thought
performance...
Rocket Man was better.
Oh, I think that's what it was, actually. I think I watched Rocket Man, and then I was like, wait, this movie's good. And then I stopped liking
They're
Bohemian
very
Rhapsody.
similar stories, actually.
But Rocket Man is so much better. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, music-wise, I might prefer Queen over Elton John, maybe. But like,
EGOT King, Elton John.
but like,
I
in
love
terms
them
of
both.
films, Rocket Man's an objectively better experience. And I will say, after having seen the Elvis movie, the editing didn't bother me as much this time.
Oh, it's definitely not as crazy as the Elvis
So
movie.
it's like fine, I guess. I just gave it 3.5. It was okay.
I gave it 3 bags. I think if this was 2019, I would have given it 5 bags. But you live and you learn. I don't know. It's pretty... I feel like going into it now, it's pretty forgettable. It follows a really standard biopic formula, and there's not really a lot more to it. It's Queen. The story of Queen.
So,
All right, next.
all right, next.
Next we have
No hard feelings.
No Hard Feelings.
I'm doing like what she was doing in the poster.
It's cute. This is a new raunchy comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence and my Broadway king Andrew Barth Feldman.
How old is Jennifer Lawrence? Born
30?
1990.
34.
34? Holy shit, she could have a kid in college by now.
No, her baby is like 2.
No, wow, she has a kid. Didn't even know.
Yeah, I want to point out that I've been an OG Andrew Barth Feldman fan. I'm saying this literally just for clout points. I've been a fan of him for quite a minute, and I will continue to be, so look out for him. Anyways, this is one of those, like, movies that, like, when they released it, they were like, this is a raunchy comedy.
You can't make movies
like this anymore.
Yeah, I love when movies like do that in their marketing, because it's always not true. There will always be movies pushing the cultural comfortability.
Yeah. I do appreciate their, like, commitment to, like, bringing back what people will call a mid-budget movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, like what the actual budget was, but it's a movie. So you got Jennifer Lawrence, and she needs a car, and she finds this ad that is put in the paper, and it's basically like, hey, date our son, and we'll give you a car. And she's like, that's perfect. And then so she kind of just, like, tries to date this younger kid who's, like, very sheltered, doesn't really have a lot of
And he's also a very, like, innocent kid.
And she's obviously, like, this grown woman.
Who has, like, a lot of experience.
And it's just, like, a very funny movie.
It's I really enjoyed what the film said about like gender roles and standards and stuff.
Oh
And
yeah,
how it
I
was,
like that they try to flip it and.
Well, it's interesting because it's also like inherently it's like the parents trying to get their son to have lost his virginity before he goes to college because he's like a boy, and there's like inherently a lot of that, and so a lot of the jokes kind of come from that subversion of expectations.
Yeah.
Where she's like, "You're a boy. Why do you have pepper spray?"
Yeah.
You know, like there's like a
Yeah.
lot of good humor, and it's a good. It's a banger. Honestly, kind of a slept on 2023 release.
Yeah. I don't agree that we can't make movies like this anymore, and I think, on the contrary, we should keep making movies like this.
I agree.
I give it 3.5.
I gave it 3 bags. I like the theme that gentrification hurts.
Oh
the people
yeah,
that
yeah.
make
There was
the town good.
There was a pretty solid theme of.
Like the story was fun, and it also had like a message that was like, yeah, I agree. That's fun. That's true. Anyway, up next, Katherine has never ever before in her life seen The Irishman. So
Until today.
how to educate her? My God, this is a banger.
I'm on my Martin Scorsese journey.
Pennsylvania, 1956. Frank Sheeran, a war veteran of Irish. I'm kidding. I'm not going to read the whole description.
I really enjoyed this. I don't think that that's gonna come as a surprise. I think if you can sit down and watch the 2.5 hours that this movie is, 3 hours, I don't even
way
know.
longer than 2.5. This is 3 hours and
It's probably shorter than Killers of the Flower Moon, but not by much. Really?
yeah, it's longer.
It's longer?
Yeah, this is almost 3.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Killers of the Flower Moon was like 5 minutes shorter.
Okay. Well, anyways, it's
this is a long film, but to be fair, a lot happens. It's this guy's
he's
whole
telling
life.
a story.
This little story starts from his first involvement in like the mob to like him dying in a retirement home.
God.
Like a lot is told, and it's all really good stuff. And I said this is like the Avengers Endgame of Martin Scorsese Italian guys.
Oh, you got everyone.
It's everyone. I mean, I'm talking Joe Pesci, obviously Robert De Niro, but we also got like Al Pacino.
Ray Romano.
Harvey Keitel.
Barbie Carnival.
Ray Romano.
Jesse Plemons. He's so cute. Like, I love Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
He's so cute in this. He's the one that's like with the fish. You know?
What do you mean? What kind of fish? You walk into the counter, you say, "Give me a fucking fish."
So cute.
What kind of fish you get?
It's
just so good.
It's a great
5
film.
bags and 2 sodas.
I give it 4.5 bags. I think.
This is a contender for my favorite Martin Scorsese film.
I'm in an era of my life where I'm no longer going to be complaining about movies being too long, because especially if they're warranted. Like if you're telling me a whole story, I'm going to sit down and watch it. However, I am going to take off half a bag of my rating because
it was just too long.
Sometimes you want to watch a movie at night and you don't want to start the movie at 7 p.m.
Yeah, it's really long, but it's like a lot's being told. You gotta sit through it. Next up, we got You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah.
Yes!
This was like... Okay.
This is Adam Sandler. This is the Adam Sandler...
I definitely thought parts were funny. For sure.
This movie stars Adam Sandler's daughter. Actually, both of them are in it. But his daughter, Sunny Sandler, is basically... planning her bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. She's a girl, and she gets into a little bit of teenage girl drama with her BFF over a boy. It's very much middle school girl drama core at its heart, and I think for that reason.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Since this is his daughter, does Adam Sandler's real wife, the actress that always plays his wife in these movies?
No, Adam Sandler's wife actually is Jackie Sandler, who plays his daughter's friend's mom in this movie.
Oh.
Which is confusing because it's Adam Sandler and he has his 2 kids, but in this universe he's married to Idina Menzel, not to his wife.
And he's like always married to her from Uncut Gems
Yeah.
and like
We love Idina Menzel.
yeah.
The wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
Anyway, sorry, I was just very confused about
this
that.
is just like very much. I think if you are a girl between the ages of like 12 to like 17, you need to watch this movie immediately. Otherwise, you could still watch it and you might have fun with it, but it's definitely not.
It's not for you.
It's not for everyone. I had a lot of fun with it because there was a lot of great details that reminded me a lot of like being a teenage girl, you know. And I'm always happy to see that representation. So
I gave it 2 bags. It was okay.
I gave it 3.5 bags. I thought it was fun. I had a fun time with it.
Next up, we got an actual cinema classic. This is something you should have watched at film school. I'm surprised I didn't educate you, but I did. Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Bomb.
Such a funny movie.
This one, you wanna?
Yeah, so if this is a funny movie, and it's a good comedy. It's
This one is
absurdism.
actually a comedy, unlike Full Metal Jacket.
That one's only partly comedy. This one's like a full-on comedy. This movie is so great, and it's such a strong commentary on the United States during the Cold War.
Yeah.
Because how we adopted a lot of these German scientists that we were fighting against, and how we took like so many insane calls, and how like people with power in the military were basically insane and shit. And it's a very funny movie. If you like the aesthetics that TF2 has, you'd probably love this movie.
Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, I used to play that a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great movie. Fantastic movie. 5 bags. Anything less is pre-version.
I give it 4 bags.
Explain yourself.
I thought it was funny. I thought there was a lot of funny moments. I feel like
You thought Spider-Verse Into the Cross of Spider-Verse is better.
Yeah, I
so
guess
now
I
you
did.
need to explain yourself.
I think part of it is just like I don't know if I fully like understood it. I'm not really a history buff in that way, and I feel like a lot of the
humor comes from the history of it.
Like
because it's not depicting
head.
any real people, it's depicting parodies of people.
Yeah.
And
But it's it's not real, but like
it's not real, but it could have been.
yeah, it could have been. Yeah, I guess that's true. Nope.
It's a great movie though.
Okay.
Especially for something that came out in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's relevant. It was relevant back then. The movie about the 50s and the 60s. Next up is something that's not relevant.
We did it, guys. We watched Toy Story 4.
My only review of this is Halo 3 Finish the Fight.
What is that even in reference to?
So, Halo was a video game franchise, and there were like 3 games. It was like a spin-off game, and the third slogan for the third game was Halo 3 Finish the Fight. Like, this is the last one.
Oh.
It was the most successful of them, so naturally they just kept making more, kept writing stupider story to try and warrant more games, and they all just kind of sucked afterwards. So.
Yeah, I think in my heart the Toy Story films will always end at the third movie.
Yep.
However, I can appreciate them like updating and continuing the legacy of like the toys and like continuing their lives, even though it's not always gonna be with Andy or whoever, and like adding new characters into the Toy Story universe. But at some point, I just don't really care. You know, the first movies were so good, and the third one is good as well, and I think it has a great ending, so I don't know why we needed to make a 4th one. To be honest, it also just like stressed me out. And I don't...
Yeah, I think when you ever hear that complaint of people being like, Hollywood has no more ideas and they just keep making the same movies. I think this is a prime example where that's like, yeah, I agree. Just let a franchise end, boys. Make your Destiny, which is another video game series that the people that made Halo went on to make Destiny afterwards. I was using an analogy, which is like a metaphor for talking about Toy Story, because I think this movie didn't really add anything. I think legacy is just let films exist. Like, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not everything needs to be a ticket sale.
Yeah. I like,
Make a new idea.
I like what they were doing with like what the sporky and like what is a toy versus, you know what I mean? Like, especially when you're a kid, anything can be a toy.
Yeah. That was interesting, but it's like, again,
Anyways.
I don't think that warranted a whole film.
Yeah. I gave it 3 bags.
Yeah. Next up, I gave it 2 bags.
Oh.
Next up, The Never-Ending Story. My God, what a
Did this
classic.
movie ruin anyone else's childhood?
No,
Not really.
this was like a core element of my childhood. I grew up with this.
I grew up like being sad about this movie.
I grew up loving this movie. Me and my mom loved this movie. See, Never-Ending Story is great because there's like, it's a story that's very meta and self-aware. And I didn't even appreciate that as a kid the first times I watched that.
Absolutely.
I never really understood the depth and was like, oh, that's really cool. So as an adult, that just adds so much layers. But like, I did always appreciate the twist of the story where he has to stop reading it to like save the story, because by finishing it, he has completed the story, thus killing everyone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like interesting. Like, that was kind of like, oh,
With
cool.
the nothing.
With
the
the
nothing
nothing.
didn't like I feel like when I was a kid, like the idea that like the big I don't know, like the thing that they're all afraid of is just like this big nothingness, like just everything stopping to exist, was maybe like a little bit too existential.
Believe
for
it
me.
or not, yeah, as a kid, that all went all over my head. I couldn't even grasp the concept of nothing like that. The thing that scared me the most was the big black dog.
The dog. Oh, I could totally see that. I think it's a wolf.
Dogs are wolves.
Oh.
They're just been inbred to not be so.
And also,
harmful.
this part didn't scare me, but the horse. I mean, you didn't shed a tear at that.
Oh, sure, I probably did the first time.
Anyways, this movie, it's an 80s classic.
Yeah, I gave it 4 bags.
I gave it 4 bags as well. I think
It's such a classic.
you need to watch it if you haven't seen it already.
Next up is the instant classic from 2010, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, starring Nicolas Cage and Jay Baruchel.
So you guys remember in Fantasia when there's like Mickey and he's like doing his little.
And he has to like, he gets puts that
Magic.
hat on
Yeah.
to start using the buckets.
You guys know what we're talking about.
That's him being the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Disney decided to add this to their list of live action remakes, apparently.
I wouldn't
And,
even say that this is
not
a
a-
remake.
It's like a totally original story about like wizards, and like Nicolas Cage has Alfred Molina as his like big bad arch nemesis, and they're like imprisoned together, and then some kid
Magic.
wakes them up, and they're doing it wanted to be Harry Potter so bad. And Nicolas Cage definitely gave this movie like 2% of the effort he used in Ghost Rider, which wasn't a lot even in that movie.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
He-
Going into this film, I was kind of hoping that Nicolas Cage would bring
Something.
something,
No.
but what ended up happening was one of those movies that like
But I think this movie does sort of prove the fact that if there was ever to be a casting for a Nickelback biopic, it has to be Nicolas Cage.
interesting.
And if you don't see that, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah, this is definitely not a movie that I feel like anyone should sit down and watch. Maybe if it's on cable television, you could. But other than that, I would just recommend skipping it unless you have like a certain childhood bond with this movie.
Do you agree that it's better than Sex Tape?
No, I rated it lower.
Yeah, well, apparently Letterboxd disagrees with you, because I also rated it lower.
Interesting.
I gave it 2.5 bags overall.
Yeah, I gave it 2 bags. I didn't really find much enjoyment in it. I thought, like, it was, for what it was like a action movie made in, like, the 2010s, or 2010, so.
Yeah. Next up, we got Seth MacFarlane classic, A Million Ways to Die in the West.
I need to speak on Seth MacFarlane because imagine what this man could do if he harnessed his powers for good.
Yeah.
Imagine. And yet, here we are, and this is what we get. A Million Ways to Die in the West, and Ted. I don't know.
Yeah.
My review of this movie is like if someone told you something they thought was funny.
That's his humor, though. That's literally how he does jokes. He goes, "Hey, Lois, remember that time I said something funny?"
Yeah, but...
And it's terrible. It doesn't translate to film at all.
Yeah.
I don't even think it really works in animation, but hey,
I think
whatever.
Seth MacFarlane just wanted to hang out with his buddies in like an Old West situation and sort of pull the plot from thin air out of that idea.
Yeah.
I really genuinely don't know what to tell you guys about this movie.
It's 1.5 bags.
It's not good.
It's terrible. The only thing in this movie I remember about this movie is there's like a factoid where he says the reason like a bunch of like old Western coal miners ate hot wings was because their like taste buds got so fried from like the zinc mines and stuff. And that's like, okay, I remember that for some reason. Thanks, Seth.
Insane that this was made in 2014. It feels like that was like the last possible year this movie could have been made.
Oh, for sure. Any later, it would have been like delayed into hell. So how many bags?
1.
I gave it 1.5.
Yeah.
Next up is
1.5 always feels
film.
like such a harsh rating, doesn't it? Like giving something a 1.5 is almost like, for me, it's like 1 is like, okay, this is not a good movie. 1.5 is like, I really hated you.
This next movie I almost gave 1.5, but
so we watched Mother's Day,
which is based on the holiday. In case you don't know what that is, it's a what, the Mother's Day holiday?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say the Mother's Day holiday is it's a day designed to sell cards. I don't know.
Ooh, got him. It's one of those movies that like takes on the like play off of how popular Love Actually was, and there's a million of these different movies that are like New Year's Day, St. Patrick's Day, that like play off of like throwing a bunch of different characters into like one holiday day. And this one's about Mother's Day. I don't even really know what it is. It's not a rom-com. It's not really a comedy.
I watched this
before
I saw Love Actually.
Yeah.
So let me just say, as someone who's not seen Love Actually, I think this does that Love Actually thing a little bit better.
Yeah, I think...
I have thoughts about Love Actually. Love Actually kind of bothered me with how abrupt it cut between the stories and how they were all related at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whereas it was very much... oh, they're all siblings, or like they're all, you know what I mean?
They have their connections. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember in the beginning being a little confusing, but like they pretty much like iron it out for you right away so that you know what's going on.
Yeah. And
I think that's...
But that being said, the holiday of Mother's Day versus Christmas, but you know, they made this movie 2 bags.
There's
definitely it's not.
They got different kinds of people celebrating Mother's Day. You got a divorced mom, you got a dad, you got Julia Roberts with the worst haircut I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Literally burn that wig, please.
Yeah, they definitely have.
Anyways, moving on. I gave Mother's Day 3 bags.
I gave it 2.
Very much.
It was okay.
Fine.
Next up, we got Big Trouble in Little China.
How fun is this movie?
Oh my god, this movie's fun. Maybe a touch racist, but fun.
It's...
John Carpenter, man, this guy can do anything. He can make fun movies. He can make scary movies. He can.
We're big fans of John Carpenter in this house.
And Kurt Russell.
Oh, I mean, absolutely, we love Kurt Russell. This is a movie. About Kurt Russell going to Chinatown.
He's a trucker, remember?
Yeah, and then he goes to save his friend's girlfriend.
Yeah. It's kind of like Drive.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of like Drive.
Kind of like Drive.
Except there's like supernatural martial arts. And
oh yeah, this movie gets supernatural, which I was not expecting.
I love the hand-drawn lightning effects of the 80s.
There's so many good effects in this
It's
movie.
like, if you've ever played Mortal Kombat and seen the guy with that old Chinese bucket hat who shoots lightning, that's literally from this movie. And it's fantastic. And even the Mortal Kombat movie doesn't do it as well.
Yeah, such a fun time.
This is honestly one of the more slept on John Carpenter films, I feel like, because it's a little bit forgettable, but it's so classic and it's so fun. And I'll take this over Chinatown any day.
Ooh.
I'm kidding.
Got it. All right.
I'm
How
not
many
crazy
bags
about
did you give
Chinatown.
it?
I gave it 5.
I give it 3.5.
I'm such
I
a
had fun
sucker
time
for
with
John
it.
Carpenter.
Yeah. Next up, we have Imperium.
Imperium, this is the 2016 Harry Potter movie. It's kind of like Black Klansman, but with Harry Potter.
So basically, this is a movie about Daniel Radcliffe going undercover to join a gang of Nazis, essentially. He's kind of trying to take them down from the inside, figure out what they're getting up to, and in order to do that, he kind of assimilates himself into Nazi culture.
Yeah.
To really become one of the boys, one of the guys.
White supremacists. Yeah.
It's a really interesting movie for sure. Like, just to see how racist people really can be.
Yeah, it's kind of like a American History X or a
Yeah,
Black Klansman,
yeah.
but I kind of preferred Black Klansman.
I haven't seen Black Klansman
I know
yet,
Black
so-
Klansman came out after this movie, so that's something to be said. But Black Klansman's a true story, and it's set in the 70s, and it's like
Yeah.
a black character infiltrating it, so it's a lot more like how, you know.
Yeah, this one, I feel like this movie was pretty, like, straightforward.
This one is very one note in that sense. It's like,
yeah.
okay, he goes undercover, he infiltrates the neo-Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a crazy story, but you kind of get what's going on.
Yeah, after having had Spike Lee made Black Klansman,
Yeah.
it's a little bit like, okay, why are you rewatching this over that?
Yeah,
I don't know,
but
I
think
think they're fun. It was good. 3 bags.
Daniel Radcliffe does a great performance in this, as always.
And he says the N-word.
And yeah, you gotta, to prove that you're racist. This is crazy. Like, you gotta do, you know what I mean?
Daniel Radcliffe had to say the N-word to prove it. Otherwise, this movie just wouldn't have passed and it wouldn't have been believable.
Probably not.
I agree.
Well, don't you agree?
He
'Cause
had
he
to.
had to, like, but
He
that's
had to.
No,
I
in the
agree.
movie, like, he gets a swastika tattoo. Like, imagine being that committed to the bit that you, like, undercover, because you have to. Because if you say I don't want a swastika on me, they're like, well, you're clearly not a Nazi. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to join the gang, you have to commit. So he, like, fully gets a swastika tattoo.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
3
Interesting.
bags.
I gave it 3.5 bags. I thought it was interesting. And, like, yeah, probably a fun one to check out, but
Next up is UHF. Did you guys know Weird Al made a movie one time?
did he direct it, or is he just in it?
I think he wrote it. Yeah, he wrote it
Oh,
along with the director.
cool.
And it's very much like Weird Al's humor, and it's sort of about like, what if Weird Al had a television station where they could make any TV show they wanted? And it's got Kramer from Seinfeld in it, and David Bowie's in it.
That's David Bowie. Me being like, I do not remember David Bowie being in this movie.
Shit, my
Imagine
bad.
being named David Bowie.
Yeah, my bad. Edit that out.
No
Fran
keeping it.
Drescher's in the movie though, so at least there's that.
She was working in a bridal shop in Flushing, Queen. Yeah.
And that's I feel like the purpose of the movie. It's a very skit show like experience.
Yeah. All right.
I gave it 3.5.
I didn't give it a rating. and
I know,
don't
it's
think I'm going to because
very
it was
forgettable.
so forgettable that I can't even.
But it wasn't bad. Unlike this next movie, The Circle.
Yo.
This is like honestly one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
So, this is so disappointing because I'm such an Emma Watson lover. And Tom Hanks is in this movie too. I'm so about Tom Hanks these days. But this movie is basically like
I like John Boyega a lot.
I mean, who doesn't love John Boyega? I just forgot he was in this movie. I'm like refusing to like lump him into being in this movie.
It's unfortunate, isn't it, that he's in this?
Basically, the story follows Emma Watson, and she gets a new job at. Is it called The Circle? Like what? I think.
Yeah,
it's
I think
called
it's
The
called
Circle.
The Circle.
And like basically, it's like this big internet tech like Tom Hanks is kind of like the Steve Jobs.
It's like a parody of Google.
Yeah, it's a parody of like big internet tech
with like the big campus and like all these amenities.
Yeah, very much Google core. And turns out big internet company might be bad.
The whole movie, all her like parents and like all like the boomers that she ignores are like, hey, your privacy is just something you should keep.
Yeah.
And she's like, why? If you have nothing bad to do, then you have nothing to hide.
And then this is where I have a problem with this movie, because I'm saying like the internet company is like bad, but like Emma Watson, who is the main character and like our viewpoint into the movie, ends up being like the main, like she like goes deeper into the internet company, like she is even more brainwashed by it by the end of the movie. And so it's kind of confusing as to like what the moral is supposed to be, because like I don't know if we're supposed to, like, my personal takeaway when I watch this movie is kind of like, that's insane, like she's just crazy, but like she's the main character, she's supposed to be the good person this whole time.
I think it's just supposed to be a cautionary tale in that sense that she's like so brainwashed she can't even see how into it she is, you know?
Yeah, but it's just a weird.
But it's terrible.
I would much rather see her take down the company.
Yeah, if you're gonna set it up to be like the company bad, then you give the satisfaction of destroying it.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, it's so helpless to rebel, you just better accept the brainwashing.
Because you see, like, like, her friend, like, literally has, like, a psychotic break, and then her other friend literally dies. Like, her other friend gets killed because she has this big live stream where she's like, can everyone on the internet go find my friend, please?
I'm gonna dox my friend right now. Can someone,
because he doesn't want to be online. Yeah, so let's go dox him.
Instead of respecting his privacy. This is one of those movies that it's so bad, it's not even funny. It's not even so bad it's boring. It's just so badly written, you're gonna get upset. You're gonna get physically angry by watching this. It's not well
acted.
It's terrible. It's just like, why write this? You were writing something. You didn't have to.
Yeah, I really am upset by the fact that like the idea of this, like the concept behind it, is not a bad concept.
It's not a horrible concept. Like a good like 25% of the movie seems like an interesting premise where you're like, okay, the CEO's like underground. He doesn't want anything to do with the modern company, and you're like, okay, but
there's
then it's
like a part where she goes like she's live streaming 24/7, and it's like, that could be something like interesting, but they don't really do anything really interesting with it.
She catches her parents having sex because of it.
Oh yeah,
that was terrible.
Anyways,
I gave it half a bag. I mean, this
I
was
gave it
like
2 bags.
I would have given it a 0 if I could have.
Okay.
I'll be real. There was some funny lines here and there. Like, I like the Twitch chat guy saying I like to fart in my sleep, but
oh yeah, like the comments, the like live stream comments were actually probably the best part of this movie.
That was probably the best rating, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just move on. Next up, we got This Is Spinal Tap, another classic. Oh my god, this is like the most Ryder core episode.
Yeah, I know.
Just like every other movie is like one of my favorites.
I was really killing it with the picks.
Yeah, you were. So this movie is a parody. It's like one of those early 90s mockumentaries. And when it came out, people didn't know it was a mockumentary. People thought this was a real documentary about a band they've never heard of. And so for that...
funny, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for that, this movie was actually kind of a flop at the time. That's why it's gotten a cult following. Because only in the future have people started to realize, like, oh, this is actually a really funny commentary of the time it was released at.
It's like, what's that fake Elvis movie?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like that, yeah.
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 I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, it's
this movie is so iconic though. There's like a lot of very subtle jokes and other jokes that are so on the head that it's just hysterical.
But it's funny. It's like
so funny.
It's like such a great take on like the hair bands of the 80s.
And it's the classic story of the band on their like living past their prime, you know, no one cares about them anymore and they're kind of too old to be doing this shit. But it's so funny. Like,
it's funny. It's so good.
The stage, they're in the pods and the door doesn't open for the whole song.
Yeah. Yeah.
All their drummers just mysteriously dying.
There's a lot of good stuff. Actually, like, now that you're saying it, I'm like...
It's just such a funny movie.
Yeah.
And it's honestly one of my favorite band movies. 5 Bags.
I gave it 4.5, I think.
It was just one of those, it was so ahead of its time. People didn't appreciate it when it came out, so that gives me a lot more respect for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of got the Tron situation going on.
Ooh, yeah. For sure.
Anyway, next up is a movie that doesn't have that. Kind of the opposite. It's called Green Lantern. This movie, terrible.
I feel like, just so you guys know how bad this is, Ryan Reynolds literally, like, kills himself as Green Lantern in Deadpool.
Yeah, he literally writes a movie where he gets a time machine and shoots himself in the head, so he didn't accept this movie. That's how bad this movie is. And it's CGI superhero crap.
I don't think, like, the thing is, like, we were talking a lot about superhero movies this episode, and I feel like the thing that, like, makes this movie...
This came out the year
worse,
before Avengers, by the way.
Yeah, is just the egregious use of CGI.
Yeah.
And the lack of any interesting story.
The story also is a huge part of it, and it's Green Lantern, too. It's such, like... The concept, I feel like, behind this character is one that really could have blossomed, because, like, he's a moderately interesting character, you know? He's... a power of imagination. That's kind of cool.
See, I was literally like, I forgot what his powers were already.
His powers, can imagine anything and make that into a reality.
This should have been a good movie.
It should have been a good movie, but instead he's like, oh, I
Instead-
imagine a shield or a gun or a hammer. And it's like, okay.
This is just the world's longest video game cutscene.
It is. But for real, why does Ryan Reynolds own Mint Mobile? Like, why does
Anybody use Mint Mobile?
No. But why does he own it?
I
Like,
wanna
what is the
know.
theory? Like,
You're so right.
it's a good question. Anyway, next up we watched Barbie.
Yeah.
Barbie was maybe the most disappointing movie of 2023 for me. A lot of that reason was because I had a very high expectation based on the cultural spectacle around it. This is one of those that I feel like in a few years people are going to be very confused why this had so much hype.
Wrong.
And okay, you can say I'm wrong, but let's just break down the story here. So the story was probably the weirdest part of this movie. I mean, I'm sure like all this set dressing and acting is all very good, and it's true to the Barbie toys, and I wouldn't really know or appreciate all that stuff. So sorry. I'm gonna just say the biggest thing here. If your eyes didn't perk up at the sudden meta self-awareness of Mattel, then I'm just gonna remember this small detail that isn't finished in the film. The company is run entirely by men. Like the CEOs are all men. There's not a woman in charge, and there just isn't.
Yeah.
The Barbie doesn't become the CEO of Mattel. There's not a woman that becomes like the woman that Barbie's relationship with doesn't become the CEO or get that. It just sort of is okay that the people that make Barbie and are making this movie are all dudes.
I don't think they're saying it's okay. I think they're saying that's what it is.
But kind of like how we were just talking about The Circle and how it was like, if you're gonna make this giant organization that you're like, this is a bad thing, you want to watch it fall, like the Ken patriarchy. And in this instance, I wanted to watch Will Ferrell's CEO misogyny group get what was coming.
I get
and they
what you're
just
saying,
didn't.
and I think it's weird the way that they set it up, but I think, like, you don't want to see Mattel fall because Mattel makes Barbie.
And they're paying
like,
for this movie.
At the end of... Right, but, like, at the end of the day, it's like, it wouldn't make any sense.
I know, and that's the thing that bothers me. It doesn't make sense. It's like, it's meta for the wrong reason, you know what I mean? And maybe that's because it's for kids, but, like, that's not a good excuse for me. I don't know.
I like the idea that Barbie, at the end of the movie, she becomes human.
Yeah, I like that too.
But she doesn't become... Because when she's a Barbie, right, like, she can be anything she wants, but when she goes to being human, it's like she's just a girl. She doesn't become, like, immediately, like, CEO or anything crazy like that. Like, she just is a regular person.
And I understand that too, but maybe I'm saying that, what was her name? The actress who played the America Ferrera. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe she should have become one of the CEOs of that company. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people they look at like the speech that America Ferrera does, and they're like, it's a good speech, but it's very much like
Character looks
feminism
at camera
101.
and says,
Yeah. But I think like you kind of have to look at it through the lens of like a lot of young girls, obviously, are the ones that are gonna be the most
moved by that.
And it's important for them to have. Even I was very much moved by that speech as a woman myself, you know.
I feel like it's that's a good way of explaining it. It's designed for young girls who are transitioning from that period of innocence to like teenage development.
Yeah.
I gave it 2.5. It was fine.
You didn't see this movie when it came out in movie theaters, correct? Right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't watch this in theaters. I wasn't in the crowds doing the Barbenheimer. You know
so you
what I
had
mean?
different expectations based on like seeing people talk about it for months and months.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And that's ultimately like that was for me why I'm just so like I don't get it. But you know, it was a fine movie. Everyone in it did a good job.
The set design is genuinely the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I grew up playing with Barbies, and like I immediately understood a lot of the references that I feel like you wouldn't know unless you grew up with Barbies.
Like you were
know?
saying, all like the dream houses are like actually
Yeah, I
one-to-one,
mean
like,
all of
play
the
sets and
all
stuff.
of the set design is incredible. And I love that they brought back like the painted backgrounds and everything too, and like all of the outfits, they're all Barbie outfits. Like
Give Greta Gerwig more money so she can go make her own movies without having to be paid by Mattel. Yeah.
Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blonde fragility? Anyways, we should move on. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah. Well, it's a topical movie.
It is topical.
And there's, a lot to be said about it. Anyway, next up, we need to move on. We've been talking about Barbie land for a while. Next up is a banger cinematic masterpiece from Ridley Scott. That's right. Blade Runner 1982. We watched the director's version, the director's cut, because obviously. And
Harrison Ford, you've
God.
done it again.
so cool. He's just the coolest guy in the entire world.
In the universe, really.
Yeah, Harrison Ford, could you be my dad?
Honestly.
He's so cool. But yeah, this is such a classic sci-fi. You're the one who saw it for the first time. What do you have to say about it?
Yes, this was my first time watching Blade Runner, and I really liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I feel like I avoided
It's half as long as The Irishman.
Yeah, the Blade Runner 1 is really not that long, which is great.
It's way people dramatize that to be way more than it is.
I feel like I kind of always avoided it because it didn't always really feel like something I would vibe with, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed the whole story.
Yep.
Really. It's quite interesting.
It says I really like the concept of what does it mean to be human. This film is honestly a brilliant work of art, and I could gush about the painted backgrounds and like
We saw
the practical,
the
physical models of the
so cool.
that building. Yeah, it's a great film. I honestly don't know what else needs to be said, so I just won't. It's a fantastic 5 bags, 2 sodas. Go watch it if you haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, it's probably worth a rewatch. But you could also watch the sequel, which is the next movie we would talk about.
Blade Runner 2049. This is what we came here for.
Yeah, this is 60 minutes longer than the original Blade Runner, so
It's
substantially longer.
yeah.
And I saw this in theater, and let me tell you, there was not a soul in the theater when I watched this.
This one would have been, I feel like, maybe a little tough to watch in the theater, but it's so visually stunning that maybe
It's so visually stunning that the projector kind of helped for that. But yeah, it's long, and it's good. It's solid. I don't think it's as good as the first one.
I liked it more, maybe because I love Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I think you're just susceptible to celebrityism.
I totally am when it comes to Ryan Gosling.
In terms of story, it's similar but different, and I liked the twist, and that especially the protagonist being someone that the universe doesn't revolve around. I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good
That's probably the best
fake
thing.
out.
It's a really
kind
good
of-
I want to be the guy
You
type story.
think it's going one way, because the story seems to be going one way and then it's not, which is always fun.
Yeah, it does a great job of that, and I like that about the story. I'm not crazy about some of like the world developments that are now canon because of it. Like in between the first movie and this movie, there's been like, oh well, they rise up, and then there's like a giant power outage, and then they rebuild society, and it's like,
yeah. I think we missed some. Isn't there movies in the middle that we missed?
no, there's like shorts that they made that they released right before this movie to like sort of build up for this.
Yeah, okay.
But it's all like, I'm not crazy about that world building. It's a little bit too much for me. It's a little bit starting to get stretch my like, okay, I don't know how much I necessarily agree.
I loved it.
But I did love this movie as well. 5 bags, but
I gave it 4.5. I thought it was great, and I thought it was beautiful.
It's a great film.
Touching.
So thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. If you want to watch another episode, click on another episode. If you want to subscribe to see next week's, do that too, because we'll be back to talk about more films.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you are telling all of your friends and your family members to subscribe. You know, send an email to your uncle. Text your second cousin. Do what you gotta do.
Fax your graduating class.
Yeah, just spread the word.
Spread the word that the mediocre movie majors
are here, and we're not going anywhere.
And who are you gonna call?
Movies.
Can't use the song.
Woo!
It's pirated. It's copyrighted.
Copyrighted. Goodbye.
Adios.